Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you hear any background noise in today's video, my toddler is home with me. She is keeping herself busy. So in today's video, I am going to show you how to make a sourdough starter from scratch. You might be coming to this video because you have tried making a sourdough starter yourself quite a few times now, and maybe it hasn't worked out. There are so many different ways that you can make a sourdough starter at home. This is the method that I used. I have had my sourdough starter for a little over a year now, and it is still going strong. It's doing amazing. And you really don't have to overcomplicate this or overthink it. My sourdough starter is my second child. Honestly, I take care of it every single week, sometimes multiple times a day per week. And in order to keep it alive, you just keep feeding it flour and water, and all of that good bacteria is just going to continue to ferment and allow your sourdough starter to grow. There are so many different articles you can read and different pieces of information if you still kind of want to know a little bit more about what a sourdough starter is. Essentially, it is what you need to make sourdough bread. It replaces the yeast that you would typically use in a regular bread recipe. Your sourdough starter is essentially your yeast for your sourdough bread, and it's going to allow your bread to rise. Starter is it's basically just flour and water. 2 ingredients, that's it. So I want to kind of jump right into it and show you guys how I make a starter from scratch. Just so that this intro isn't too long. Again, like I mentioned, there are so many different methods that you can use to create a starter. A lot of people you'll see will use a food scale. That is going to give you a very accurate measurement. If you want to just do it quick and easy, like I do, I just use measuring cups for this part. I start with half a cup of water, half a cup of flour, and mix it together. This is day 1. So what you're gonna need on day 1 is a jar, a wooden spoon or a plastic spatula, some filtered water that's like room temperature, and some all-purpose flour, and you wanna make sure it's unbleached. That is super important. Make sure it's unbleached. When it comes to my starter, I don't use, to be honest, I don't use my expensive like organic health food store flours. I prefer to save those for my actual loaves of bread. And when it comes to my starter, I just buy whatever is cheapest at the store because we're gonna be discarding a bunch of it anyways. And to me, that just feels like a little bit of a waste. And honestly, this Robin Hood brand has been working amazing for me for my starter, and it is so inexpensive. So you don't have to buy an expensive flour for your starter. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to take my jar and my half cup. I'm going to grab my flour, half a cup of flour. I prefer to use more of a wide mouth jar for this because, as you can see, this jar isn't as wide as I would like, but all of my like really wide mouth jars are currently being used for something right now. So this is what we're working with. And then I will take my half cup of water and mix that really, really well. You don't want to see any dry bits of flour at all. So make sure you really take your time to mix this. So once we have that all mixed together, we're gonna wanna cover our jar. We don't want it to be airtight. So if you have the lid to your jar, you can just kind of place it on top. Just don't screw it on tight. What I like to do is I take a piece of parchment paper and an elastic band, and I just cover the jar with that. You can also get like bowl covers, anything that's not airtight. And then you probably won't see a ton of growth in the first 24 hours, but you can mark where it is right now if you want to. So I'm gonna take another elastic band, pop that on at its starting point, and that's it. So this is day 1. You're gonna let this sit for 24 hours and let everything kind of combine and work together. Placement of your sourdough starter, where you're gonna keep it, is really important. You want to keep it in an area where it won't get a ton of draft. You want it to be in a nice kind of cozy, warm environment. My 2 favorite spots in my house personally, I really like to keep it either in the oven with the light on. Be really careful that you don't bake your starter by accident. So I might recommend putting like a sticky note on your oven to kind of let people in the house know not to turn it on before you take out your starter. But my favorite place for my starter is just in my microwave. Just put it in there, shut the door. There's literally no draft in there. It's nice and cozy. So I'm gonna pop mine in the microwave, and I will check back in with you in 24 hours. good morning. This is starter day 2. So we let our starter sit for 24 hours and this is what it looks like. Notice that your starter has a little bit of like a yellow liquid on top, and that's okay. That's totally normal. It just means your starter is hungry. That liquid that you see is actually called a hooch, and it just means that your starter needs to be fed. So you can either pour that liquid off or just mix it in. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix mine in. And today we are gonna be doing the exact same thing that we did yesterday. We're going to be feeding it a half cup of our unbleached all-purpose flour and a half cup of our room temperature filtered water. Just mix it up really well. That is it for starter day 2. We're gonna put our parchment paper and rubber band back on top. Plop it back in the microwave. Again, you probably won't see much growth at all. I will check on it tonight just to see if it has that hooch again on top, if it's hungry. But if it's not, then I'll just wait till tomorrow morning. So we'll wait another 24 hours to feed it again. And tomorrow the process will be a little bit different. I think I forgot to mention in the beginning of this video that this process is going to take about 7 days. Where are you? So as you can see, starter day 3, my starter is looking really bubbly and active already. So last night when I checked my starter, I checked it around 8 or 9 p.m. It did have a thick layer of hooch. So what I did was I added about 2 tablespoons of flour and like a splash of water because it was pretty liquidy. It was pretty liquidy, so I didn't want to add too much water. 1 second. So since it was already pretty liquidy, I didn't want to add too much water to it, but I did want to feed it. So I ended up, like I said, adding about 2 tablespoons of flour, a splash of water, and I think it made it really happy because look how much it's risen. Here I am. Happy figure. Happy figure. Where are you? Here I am. Here I am. How do you do? So yeah, it looks really happy. It's risen a little bit, but it's not ready to use. It won't be ready to use until after about 7 days. Today what we're gonna do, it's going to be a little bit of a different process. Sorry if this clip of the video is a little chaotic. I'm filming every single day. This is just real life. So today what we're gonna do is discard half a cup of our starter. And with that discard, we're just gonna throw it right in the trash. You're not able to use that discard. We're gonna throw it away. Take just a half cup measuring cup and pour it in. We are going to throw this in the trash. And then we're gonna add a half cup flour and a half cup water and mix it really well. So the main difference on day 3 is you discard half a cup. I'm gonna leave all of the directions down below in the description so that you have something you can read if you want to follow along that way. So I'm just mixing it up really well. You want the consistency to be like a nice pancake batter. Make sure that there's no dry bits of flour. Make sure that you can't see any flour. And it's smelling a little bit today. It's not smelling horrible, but it also doesn't smell amazing. So that's telling me that it just needs to be fed. When it's hungry, it starts to smell like a little stanky. And when it's fed and happy, then that's when it kind of smells like sourdough. And then I'm going to, again, leave this for 24 hours, but I will check on it tonight to see if it's hungry. And again, the way that you can tell if it's hungry is if there's that line of hooch. Your parchment paper and your elastic band. Put that in your cozy little spot. Okay guys, so starter day 4, we're gonna do the same thing as day 3. We're going to discard half cup of our starter, add half a cup of flour and half a cup of our water. And then we're going to mix that really well and cover it back up and put it back in its cozy spot. and then repeat the same thing in 24 hours. And don't forget to check your starter in the evening to see if it's hungry. Maybe it'll need a little top up of a bit of flour and water, but if it doesn't look hungry, then you can just leave it and check back in 24 hours. So for day 5, we are going to repeat these exact same steps, and you're going to repeat these steps until day 6. So from day 3 till day 6, you're going to discard half a cup of your starter. That discard is going to go in the trash. Then you're going to feed it half a cup of flour and half a cup of water and mix it really well. Within these days, you might not notice a ton of action from your starter. And by action, I mean it might not be rising a lot, it might not be doubling in size, and that is okay. You will probably notice it giving you some bubbles, and the fact that it's not rising doesn't mean that your starter is not working. It will work, just be consistent with it, stay on top of feeding it, and be patient. Your starter will eventually start to grow and double in size, but within the first week, it might not do that a ton. But like I said, just be patient, just be consistent, and you will notice it start to rise. Okay, so we are on day 7 of starting a sourdough starter from scratch. I didn't really film the past few days, one because my family just got really sick with bad colds. You can probably hear it in my voice. Yeah, I just didn't really think about pulling the camera out to film it. But I was doing the same thing on all the days that I showed you before. And again, I'm going to write down below all of the instructions and directions on what to do. Yeah, we are on day 7. It's officially been a week, and look at my starter. It has completely exploded. It is so bubbly and active, and it's exploded, bursting at the seams. So I haven't seen much action the past 7 days, and you will probably notice the same with your starter. I have seen a lot of bubbles in my starter, but I haven't seen it grow like this. It has risen a little bit, but it hasn't yet doubled in size. This is actually the first time that it has doubled in size, and it's very possible that it's going to take your starter a week to double in size as well. It's just growing, it's fermenting, it's doing its thing, and it takes time. You have to be really patient with it and really consistent. Stick with it, keep feeding it every single day the same way that you have been, and just be patient. It's going to take time. It took my starter a week to double in size and to really become active. You can really see all of those bubbles. Look at how active that is. I'm gonna go ahead and take the top part off. I'm gonna put a plate underneath it just in case it gets all over the place. Oh my gosh, oh my goodness. Look at that, you guys. Oh my gosh. That is one active starter. Wow, wow, wow. So how do we know if our starter is ready for us to use? If your starter is not getting very bubbly or doubling in size in the first 1 to 4 hours after feeding it, it has not quite reached its maturity. So 7 days is usually ballpark. Sometimes it takes closer to 10 days to reach this point. So just continue along with the same schedule in order to get there. So continue with your same feeding schedule in order to get it to its level of maturity. And like I said, that could take 7 days. Usually it takes more like 10 days. But just stay consistent with those feedings. You will get there. Once your sourdough starter has reached its level of maturity, congratulations, it is ready to use. You can try to make your first loaf of sourdough bread. When you are not using your sourdough starter, I recommend keeping it in the fridge. You can keep it in the fridge for up to 7 days before you need to feed it again. And keeping it in the fridge just helps to keep it cold, obviously, which helps to slow down its fermentation process. Once your starter has reached maturity, you no longer have to throw out your starter discard if you don't want to. You can try using the discard in recipes as well.
And this discard essentially just means inactive sourdough starter. So it's not active, it's not bubbly, it's not going to really make anything rise, but it is still beneficial and it can be used in discard recipes. And there are so many amazing recipes online that you can try using that in. I hope that if you are making a sourdough starter from scratch, that this video was helpful for you. Please be sure to let me know if you have any comments or questions in the comment section down below, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video if you liked it. Thanks for watching.